of the Equal Pay Amendment Bill, and of course this will amend the Equal Pay Act of 1972 and provide a better framework to assess whether there is sex-based undervaluation of workers covered by a pay equity claim. This piece of legislation is not about collective bargaining. It is not about where wages are low. This is a piece of legislation to provide a framework that allows us to determine where there is sex-based undervaluation. And this, Madam Speaker, is where things went astray with the 2020 legislation, because all of a sudden the government in power wanted to wrap a whole bunch of other issues into a piece of legislation that removed it from its core purpose, which was about pay equity. So our government is returning it to be about pay equity. I want to remind the House that in 2017 the then National Government settled with Christine Bartlett. I applaud her determination and her courage in taking that case and the $2 billion settlement that resulted. The legislation that we introduced in 2017, really we're going back to a more pragmatic approach, which means the process is more robust, it is more transparent, it is more workable and sustainable for all parties involved. And I do want to just correct a couple of the nonsenses that the Labour and Green members talked about in dramatising this and scaremongering. And the first is the blatant inaccuracy that this is removing review rights. It's not. It's just putting review rights in a 10-year interval. What we do want to do, and here's the thing, if there is a sex-based discrimination case that works the way through its process and leads to change, why is it that we think in only 3 years there would still be sex-based discrimination? It wouldn't work if that was the case. So 10 years is a realistic interval in terms of that change being made. The other thing I do want to put on the record, Madam Speaker, because I think it is important, in terms of national support of the 2020 legislation, I just do want to remind the House that the Labour government rammed through a massive SOP that had no scrutiny by anyone, and many of the issues that we are fixing today in this piece of legislation brought by my colleague, the Honourable Brooke Van Velden, fixes those difficulties. So, Madam Speaker, this piece of legislation is about sex-based discrimination. And I'm proud of the National Party record and what we have done in terms of equal pay, in terms of introducing legislation and recognising pay equity in 2017. I accept what members of the House have said about a range of New Zealanders whose pay is too low. That is why we want a growing economy that lifts wages. But that is a very different issue to sex-based discrimination. So let's keep the debate about the issue of the day, which is pay equity. It's not about low wages. It's not about issues that the other side want to scaremonger. It is about pay equity, so let's focus on that, because it's about historical undervaluation of areas that have been traditionally dominated by women. And one of the other really important components of this legislation is when we are using comparators. And the Minister outlined some of the comparators. And if I think about the concerns that have been raised with me by workers, by employers across the board, people want to understand comparators that make sense. And unfortunately, what we've seen with the current system is just an absolute stretching beyond of what is logical and reasonable in terms of a comparator. So we want to see equal pay equity claims that are successful, that are based on merit, and we must have a system that is more robust, workable and sustainable so that we can achieve greater pay equity.
Like, does she sit down after that and be like, yeah, I killed it? That was a sick speech, man. Like, that is just absolutely terrible. Like, have workers really raised issues with you, Louise? I highly doubt it. That they
you keep telling us about how the principles are great to say, what do you call it? Oh, you can request a callback option at wins. Only if it gives you it. Otherwise, you've got to wait on hold. We've got this great system called My MSD. Anyone who actually uses it know it's my AR in kids mode. She's very...
Yeah, I guess I'm disappointed. I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. I feel like she knows exactly what she's saying. Like with Christine Bartlett, they were dragged kicking and screaming. So much money was spent on legal fees of care and support workers paying their members money. Our public services money was spent on these legal fees. And yeah, the legislation needs to be improved, not destroyed. I mean, we've got heaps of improvements we would have loved to have made to it.
But there could be many things there. If you put it for a proper select committee process, you would have heard them. We could have done a show to cover it.
I know, right?
You decided that it wasn't good enough for us to do a select committee show on the Pay Equity Amendment Bill that could be as a feature on the Order Paper podcast.
Well, you know what? That is the main reason that I'm upset, Sam, because of your podcast. It is devastating. But seriously, it is just like, yeah, I'm just embarrassed for her, really.
Yeah. No, we'll just keep. For Brooke, we'll just keep thinking of you as Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing as well because I'm a woman that supports other women. I am a girl's girl, and I don't like seeing some of the language that I see on social media about Brooke Van Velden and other people. It's horrible. And I wouldn't want that out there about me or my friends or the bosses and people I look up to. It's just so frustrating, though, because I guess people, one of my members the other day told me she gets paid fortnightly, and I think it was like 6 days into the fortnight. She has nothing, no money left, nothing. All these care and support workers cannot afford warrant of fitnesses, not just because of the cost of the WAF, but the consequences if they have something wrong with their car. Like, this is who you're taking money away from real people who can't afford to go to the dentist and do these really important things they need to do. It's not, the money's not being wasted. I just don't understand how they can stand there and say this stuff.
Well, they probably think about the people who make it probably think about the perfect world where, the petrol tank is always full, which I have to be honest, I've been referred to this as in the way of petrol in my car. The saying goes, a smoker will always find money for cigarettes. I always somehow find money to make sure there's petrol in my car. But it is something that I've been told, like I got told that when I was 18, I was someone like that, because I was someone who always had petrol in my car.
Yeah.
I was always one on that one, but it's possibly because, like when I was 19, I was living in rural Levin. The nearest petrol station was 10 kilometres away from home.
Well, I think a lot of these people as well, though, it's like they've got to drive for work. They have to run their own car and get very minimal costs covering it as well.
Yeah, and you can't sit down there and go, oh, well, why don't you just catch the bus? Yes, the
why
bus
don't you just get a better
run
job?
At 2 a.m. in the morning.
And like these people, like they genuinely seem to believe that their privilege doesn't exist and that they've just magically found their way into this by their choices and their hard work. Like, my care and support worker members are not less deserving of having just a good, normal life because they don't have that privilege. It is just, they're hardworking, beautiful, amazing people.
Here's something to work out that you may have heard, and and this usually comes from people who have never, like, they'll say to a friend of the show, Blake Forbes, oh, why don't you just ring out for a wheelchair taxi? And it's like he's got to book like
how many
week in advance. They could tell my friend Johanna, who she, if she ever comes to Wellington, she's got to sit there and structure her flights in such a way, like to do a day event she can't do because no wheelchair taxis before 7 in the morning, no wheelchair taxis after 7 at night.
Even just the simple thing of having a pram and walking around Wellington just opened my eyes to the access issues, the mobility issues, the inconsiderate behavior of others, blocking things. It just, never mind getting a taxi on demand.
Yeah. Or like the one I love is the people who sit there and go, they want to stop cycle lanes for disability, but then their solution to help disabled people is to make bus stops inaccessible.
Yeah.
And like one's a great example is, and people get riled up about this in Wellington a lot, but all over the country, is inline bus stops. But sometimes the inline bus stop is the most accessible option because if you have a bus, you have the bus stop here, you have the bus have its ass hanging out here. How's the wheelchair ramp meant to get out?
Oh, don't worry, they can just wait for the next one.
Or they can get off at the next bus stop.
Or maybe they should make different choices. Hire a driver. I don't know. It's just, it's like, it's one thing that I've learned about organizing a lot of rallies lately as well is really to get to be better, have better access plans, publicize them when we have them. We've got to be better at this stuff. And I am not afraid to admit that because if I don't, then I won't get better.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok.